Jennifer of Celtic Knot Crochet, and today in this video I'll be showing you how to make the Celtic bracelet. This is truly a beginner pattern, but I think experienced crocheters will enjoy making it too. You only need to know how to single crochet and slip stitch, and then there's an optional half double crochet. I'll take you through making the pieces for this bracelet. I'll show you how to weave the Celtic knot, and then I'll show you how to put the whole thing together so that you can wear it this St. Patrick's Day. There's one little fun effect that I included with this bracelet. It actually glows in the dark by using some fun glow-in-the-dark yarn. Of course, that's optional, but a link of where to purchase the glow-in-the-dark yarn is in the description below. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you like this project, and don't forget to click to subscribe. Let's get started. To make the Celtic bracelet, you're going to need a small amount of size 3 yarn. I like to use this yarn by Omega called Symphonia. You can buy it on Amazon, and there'll be links to all of these supplies in the description below. This is a beautiful bright green, but there are many other yarn options that are similar to this one. Those are also listed in the description below. You can find a nice cotton at Hobby Lobby called I Love This Cotton. You can also use Lion Brand's 24/7 cotton. Those are two great options. And again, links to those are in the description below. And then you'll want a contrasting color or coordinating color, because when you make the project, you can really see how the cords are woven and the Celtic knot design when you have two colors for your project, like this one here. So I thought would be fun, another option is you can get this DIY glow yarn by Lion Brand, and I just used that for my edging. So I used a very small amount, but it's pretty much the same size as this other cotton yarn. And I just thought it would be fun to make it glow in the dark. It works really well if you charge it under a bright light. You'll also need a 3.75 millimeter hook or F hook. You'll want a tapestry or yarn needle. I like the one with the bent tip. You'll want a measuring tape so it fits your wrist properly. Of course, you'll want scissors. And then I experimented a lot of different ways with how to create the length part here of the bracelet. And I first tried some elastic thread and some glow-in-the-dark beads. And I love how the glow-in-the-dark beads look, but the elastic here was just very disappointing. It kept stretching, and I also, it fell off my wrist a couple times while I was shopping. So if you want to do that, you'll need elastic cord and some beads and a beading needle. But I found that just doing another crocheted cord and using a sew-on snap that I found at my local craft store worked even better. And now it's nice and secure, it's not going anywhere, and it feels great. So I picked up these sew-on snaps at Hobby Lobby. Again, you can find these online. Look in the description below. And these are our size 1 snaps, 9 to 10 millimeters in diameter. And all snaps have 2 pieces. I'll show you how to put that on. And you'll want some matching sewing thread and an embroidery needle or sewing needle. You'll need a few more supplies when we get to the weaving section of this video. You'll need a cork board and some sewing pins, and you'll need to print out the Celtic knot diagram, which you can find for free on my blog at celticknotcrochet.com. I'll show you all of those when we get there. So to create this project, let me show you just a couple things about the bracelet. So we're going to create 2 cords with crochet stitches, and then we're going to weave them together using a diagram. Then we're going to sew the ends together and weave in all our ends on the wrong side so you can't see them. And then we're going to add this short cord and, like I showed you, sew on a snap closure. So you'll want to take your main color. So my main color is the center of the cord, and I'm going to put my slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to chain 40. And now I'm going to work single crochets. And what I like to do for most of my Celtic knot projects is when we start making the cord, we don't work into the front side of the chain that looks like a braid. I like to turn it over, and you could see all these bumps here or bars on the back of the chain. And I'm going to skip the first chain and then put my hook under that back bar or back bump. And if you need some more specific help with this step, you can watch the video tutorial right here. And then I yarn over, pull my hook through the chain, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And that's a single crochet. And I'm going to work into each chain across, but I'm going to do it all in that back bump. And what I like to do is I like to lay the chain over my non-dominant hand on my middle finger, just like this. And then I can easily come in from the side and find that bar there, or that bump, and work the single crochet. And by doing that, it makes the top and the bottom of my project look the same. And it gives you a nice, clean cord to work with. And just keep trucking along there all the way to the end, and you'll have 39 single crochets. And this is what your cord should look like when you're finished. And so you know you're on the right track, let's measure this cord. And the cord should be approximately 7.5 inches long. Okay? And then you're going to cut about 6 inches from the end and yarn over, pull through that loop on your hook, tighten it off. And now we're going to add the glow-in-the-dark edging. Again, you could use whatever yarn you'd like, but it is going to work better for you if you use the size 3 yarn, which is slightly thinner than medium weight size 4 yarn. Like a Red Heart Super Saver is a little thick for this. It might work for you, but I like using just slightly thinner yarn for jewelry projects. Now I'm going to pick up my cord, and I'm going to start working at the beginning of my cord where there are no yarn tails. See, there are yarn tails at the end. So I'm going to pick this first stitch right here. You can see it right here. This first stitch. And normally I would insert my hook under both of those loops of the stitch. But I want to insert my hook only under the back loop, like so. And I'm going to yarn over, pull through the stitch, and keep pulling and pull through the loop on my hook. And that's called a slip stitch. And I'm going to work a slip stitch in each of these stitches all the way across. So I'll show you how to do that again. Put my hook into that back loop only. So you see this stitch is like a V. I'm going to go into the back of the V, yarn over, pull through the V and through the loop on my hook. And that creates this really pretty braid-like look along the edge of your cord. And I'm going to continue with those slip stitches. And you want to make these nice and loose. So make sure they're not too tight, or it will scrunch up your cord and not look even. I'm coming up on the opposite end of my cord. So now I want to work across the short end of this cord. So I'm just going to chain 1, That helps me get around this first corner. And then I'm going to insert my hook just right into the side of that last single crochet. Yarn over and pull through everything for another slip stitch. Now I'm going to chain one again, and now I'm ready to go along this other side of the cord. So I'll turn my work. It's always good to use your hands a lot when you're crocheting to give you the best control for working your stitches. So I'm going to clasp the cord between my thumb and middle finger, and instead of working like this where I'm working from the front, I'm going to turn it so I'm working from the top, and then I can see those loops better. And I'm going to insert my hook right into the middle of that first stitch, so I pick up the back loop, yarn over, and pull through everything. And there's the next one, using my hand to really help me find those stitches. And I'm going to truck along here with the slip stitch, nice and loose, across to where we began. So that I'm putting this nice contrasting color on both sides of my cord. Now when I get here, I don't need to go across this short end, and it's better if we don't, because it's going to help us figure out how to work the cords in the weaving stage. So I'm going to cut about 6 to 8 inches from the end, yarn over, pull my yarn tail through that last loop on my hook, make it nice and tight, and now I have a 7.5 inch cord with the slip stitch edging on either side. And you're going to want to make 2 of these so we can weave them together to create the knot. So here are my 2 cords, and I'm ready to weave the Celtic knot. So I need to gather my weaving supplies. The first thing you'll need is a piece of cork board, and it doesn't need to be as big as mine. It could be about 6 inches by 6 inches. And I like the cork board that's about 1/4 of an inch thick. And I like to put it on top of a piece of styrofoam just to protect my work surface, because it's easy for the pins to go through the cork board. But you don't have to do that. Or you could put a piece of cardboard or just a surface underneath that you don't mind getting stuck with pins. And then you'll want to go to CelticKnotCrochet.com and print out the bracelet diagram. You'll see a link to this pattern in the description below. And then you'll want a few straight sewing pins, and this is going to help you hold the cord in place. Now before we weave any Celtic knot, it's always a good idea to take a look at the diagram that I provide and think about it, make some notes about what's there, so it goes through your brain once before you start with the cords. So you could see I've color coded it, and you're going to weave one of the cords here on the green path, and then you're going to weave the other cord on the orangey red path. You can see that there's an asterisk here and a black square here, and then we have arrows with 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to start here. So I recommend that you take your finger and you follow the green path. So this one's going to go this way, and the number 1 path is going to go this way and be tucked under this one. And then on this side, 3 is going to go this way, and then 4 is going this way. And you'll see with all Celtic knots you have the alternating under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over pattern. So each of the cords will alternate with unders and overs, and that's what makes it look so neat. So we're going to start on the green path, and I'm going to take one of my cords, and I want to make sure that this end with the finished slip stitches, see how one end has the slip stitches going across the short end, and one does not have that. So when I put this down on the diagram, I want to make sure that this one is on the top. So I'm going to fold it in half so I can find the middle approximately. So here we go. This is about the center of my cord, and I'm going to put it right down on this black asterisk. And here come the pins. So I put the pin in to help it stay in place. Now I'm going to follow the arrow with number 1. So I'm going to just follow it along like that. Lay the cord on top. I use as many pins as will help me keep it where I want it. Okay, and now I peek at the diagram and I have number 2 is going to come this way. So once we start working with other sections of the cord, we have to watch where we're going to go. So I can see by peeking at the diagram that I'm going to go over this end of the cord. So I'm just making a very, very simple shape right here. And here's that ending. And these are going to overlap. So I want to make sure that the one that has that nice finished edge goes on top, like so. And that will look nice in your finished bracelet. You can see there. So that's the first side. Now I'm going to take the other cord and I'm going to fold it in half. And this time I want to make sure that the finished side is on the bottom. So the first time our cord went this way with the finished side on top, and the second cord is going to go the other direction, like so. Now this is where it gets trickier, but it's still not that difficult. So if I had looked, remember we have the black square is right there. So this is where I want to begin, in the center again with my cord. So I just place the center on top of that black square. And number 4 is going down this way, so I want to do number 3 first. You can see 3 here, and if I move my pin so I can see what I'm doing, I peek at the diagram and I see that I need to go under the green. See how the red disappears? So I want to make sure that I take this end of the cord and I go under the other section. Now here's a trick for you. It can be a little tight for your fingers. So if you put the yarn tails onto your yarn needle, you can go right underneath the cord, like so, and pull it through. And of course, I didn't mention, but you want to make sure that the right side of your cord is facing. And I pull it through like that. And so I'm going to follow the arrow over here, and I see that I'm going to go over the green, and I'm going to pass over here, and I'm going to go over the green again. So once you get through that little tricky part, you just go like that. Okay, so we have just one part left until our Celtic knot is complete. And this is probably the hardest part. So I'm going to take the needle off, and here we go, number 4 with the arrow. So I'm going to go under the green, and then I'm going to go over the green, and then under. So this is my last pass with the cord, and I do under, over, under. And you'll see by doing that last pass, it's going to lock all the cords together. It's kind of like magic. And again, I'm going to use my trick of putting the yarn tails on my yarn needle, and that helps me get my fingers under there. So go under, this cord right here. Pull it through. Now I'm going to go over this cross part here, and then I got to squeeze in and go under that last bend over here. And because this is the pretty finished end of my cord, I'm going to make sure, you might have to adjust a little to see how I move things over, just to make this a little bit longer. And I'm going to move it over the top like that. And there we go. That's it. Pretty easy to weave this knot. Then I'm going to take that end and move my pins at the very end going across on that side and on this side. That way it won't, when I take it off of here, it won't spring apart. I need to pin those cord ends together. So now we're at the stage where we want to secure everything so our pretty knot stays intact. So I'm going to use these yarn tails. That's why I cut them to 6 to 8 inches and put one on my yarn needle. And I'm using the same color as the cord because I can go up through this end part here and go right down and make sure I pick up the cord in the back. And I want it to be nice and secure, so I'll use the same color to do this. Like so. And then I'll come back and I'll grab the edging color and I'll use that right along the edging area here to make sure the ends of the cords are nice and secure. And it kind of, because they're the same color, they kind of just blend right into each other and you don't even see it. And then on the back, you can see here, I'll take the pin out now. Here's the other edge of the cord, and I'm just going to do a whip stitch across that side and again making sure everything, all my stitching doesn't show on the front. See, and it's nice and secured. And then I'll, in the same method, I'll weave these yarn tails in through the back side of the cord so they're nice and hidden and everything stays together. So I'll just go like this, see, through the back, and then I can go across to the other cord. When you weave ends in, it's always good to go back and forth 2 different directions at least. Less likely to come out while you're wearing your project. And cut it like that. So that makes this nice clean end, and I want to repeat that on the other side. And then we're going to do this part, the finishing step of your bracelet. Here you can see I've completed my knot section of the bracelet. Everything's sewn together on the ends and all the yarn tails are woven in. And because of how it's woven and the thickness of the cords, I don't really have to sew the cords together because the design of the knot keeps them snug and together. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to measure your Celtic knot piece. Now it should come out to about 4 inches across. And then you'll want to measure your wrist, or whoever you're making this for. Now I have a pretty small wrist, so it's about 6 1/4, but I wouldn't want it that tight. So you want to measure a little bit extra so it's comfortable. So I'm going to say that I have about 7 inches there that I want as a total length, give or take a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to take that total length of 7 inches and subtract 4, and I get 3 inches. So that means that this length that I want to put behind my wrist to extend the bracelet, I want it to be 3 inches long, and then I'm going to give some extra here for inside where the snap is and some extra for sewing it onto the other side. So the formula is in the written instructions at CelticKnotCrochet.com. But basically you take your wrist measurement, subtract 4 inches, and then add about 1 inch to 1 1/2 inches. So I want to make my bracelet length the same color as the center of my cord. So I'm going to put slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to just chain a bunch. Doesn't really matter the number because I'm going to be basing it off of length this time, not numbers of chains, that is, anyway. And this yarn is a little stretchy, so I made there, I have about 4 inches plus a couple chains, and maybe I'll add 2 more chains just to be on the safe side. And whatever you decide on your length, you want to add 2 chains. So that's why I just added those 2 chains. So my length, I'm good with my length at about 4 1/4, and then 2 more chains, because I found that a 1/2 double crochet stitch looked the nicest. But you could do single crochet like we did for the cords, especially if you're a beginner and you haven't learned 1/2 double crochet, you can do single crochet. So for 1/2 double, I'm going to skip 2 chains at the beginning of my project, and I'm going to flip the chain over, and I'm going to work on the back side again, going through that bump. See those bumps? But first I want to yarn over, put my hook into the back bump, yarn over, pull through. Now I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that's a 1/2 double crochet. So I yarn over, put my hook into that back bar of the chain, yarn over, pull through the chain, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. This just gives me a little bit thicker cord than the one we made with single crochet. So continue across, that's all we're going to do. And now I'm going to cut about 6 to 8 inches. I want plenty to be able to sew it to the end of my bracelet. So if I measure that, it comes out to be, yep, a little bit longer than 4 inches. And what I decided is I thought it would be best to put this end that's not as pretty. See, this is a nice pretty end. So this is going to be the end with the snap, and this is going to be the end that I sew to the back side. So if you'd like, you can pin it in place, and I'm just going to overlap it about a 1/2 inch, put on my yarn needle using those yarn tails again, and I'll just pick up some stitches here on the back of the bracelet and go through the cord and through the back of the bracelet like so. And I'm going to work along this edge, then across here, down this edge and back. This is really important that it's nice and solid. I don't want my bracelet falling off. or coming apart. So you want to make sure you do this part really well, sewing around all sections of the cord. And sometimes what I like to do when I have two yarn tails that are near each other, I tie them in a double knot. That way, if for some reason after I weave in these ends, they wiggle out, they're not going to come loose because of this knot. So I can just weave the ends back in if that were to happen. So I'll weave these in like I did the others, and then we'll be ready to sew on the snap. So now we're ready to do the snap. I'm taking my sewing needle. I like to use embroidery needles for this kind of thing because the eye is a little bit bigger. And I like to double up the thread. See how I have a double strand? It makes it nice and strong. And then I tie the two ends together. And have a nice knot there. And when you take the snap off of what it came in, you'll see that there are two pieces. Okay, so this piece I like to sew to the strap, and this I like to sew to the Celtic knot part. So I'm going to do this part first, and I want to make sure that I sew it with the whole side up. So if you look at them, they kind of look like they're the same if you flip them back over. See how they both have this bauble right here that snaps in. See it? But I want to make sure that the bigger one has the hole pointing up and the rounded edge. And I'm going to put it as close as I can to the point here of the Celtic knot side. And it has 4 sewing holes on the side. I can trim off that knot later, but the knot is important. And I'm going to just do the whip stitch several times in each of the holes around the edge. So here you can see the snap sewn on, and now when you do the second part of the snap, you have to remember that you're going to do it on the outside of this bracelet length. So don't put it on the inside, or then you'll have this tab sticking out. So if you want a tab sticking out, I guess you can do it, but you want to make sure you're going to tuck that in like that and sew the part that sticks up right like that. And then what I like to do is I just test it on my wrist to make sure that it's going to be in the right place. So go ahead and test it on your wrist, and yep, if I want it all the way at the edge, it'll be a little too loose, so I'm going to move it a little bit in from the edge like that. And I'll do the same method of sewing it on in each of those 4 holes around. Now, one little tip you can do when you go to sew on this part of the snap is that you can back it with some felt on the other side of the bracelet length. So I just cut a matching small circle of felt, and I'm going to sew it on the back side, and that gives my thread something to hold on to that's a little more sturdy than just the crochet stitches. So that's a little tip for you. So you're going to have that on the back side that you can put your needle through that felt. And again, it won't show. That'll be on the inside of the bracelet, but it helps it be a little bit more secure. So there's my little piece of felt just to give it some extra backing, and I've sewed on that part of the snap, and I bring it around, clicks in place, and there you go, the Celtic bracelet. So I hope you enjoyed making the Celtic bracelet. I'd love it if you send along a photo or tag me on Instagram or leave a comment in the description below so I know you had fun making this. Make sure you give us a thumbs up, click to subscribe, and be sure to watch the next video. I have a lot of Celtic Knot projects here on my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Happy crocheting!